Hail thee well, and welcome all. I'm the Jake of all trades, and this is the first episode of my campaign journal video series, where I'm going to be talking to you, regaling you with the adventures of the players in my most recent role-playing game. So this series, it's about my tabletop RPG set in the world of Avatar, The Last Airbender. And it focuses on the Avatar as they go on their quest to bring peace to the world. And I want this series to kind of pull back the curtain for those of you players who have never GM'd before and are thinking about it, and so you get an idea of what it's like to GM. And it's also for those of you who are beginning with your GMing experience or even experienced game masters. I feel like there's going to be a lot of useful information within this series for even experienced GMs. This series, I think, will also hold value to those even if you don't have any role-playing experience as a player or a game master. I think it'll be a nice way for those of you who are thinking about starting D&D or another tabletop RPG. It'll be a good way for you to see what it's like, kind of like around the table with the players, and get an idea about what kind of control the players have in a world, at least in a world with a good GM. So my game, it started after I rewatched the Avatar, the Last Airbender and Legend of Korra series with my girlfriend. We were rewatching them together, and it got me inspired to start an Avatar-based role-playing game. And so while we were finishing it up, or right around the time we finished it, I started playing with some stuff, and I got a system ready to go, and we started doing some Avatar stuff. And we played for a while. She created her own character, Avatar Oshi, and I ran a couple NPCs as her team Avatar, and they kind of, traveled around the world like they did in the first show and the second, I suppose, as well. Just kind of doing little quests here and there while tackling the bigger stuff as well. So that game went for a while before we both kind of lost interest in it, and then it kind of died down. We both kind of got busy, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. Fast forward about a year, and I met a cool group of people locally who like to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I started playing with them for a few weeks. And it was around that time that I thought, like, hey, maybe these guys would be interested in my Avatar game. Like, I know I'm still kind of interested in it. So I kind of offhandedly pitched it to them once, and they all actually seemed like they were pretty down for it. And so the next week I showed up with a bunch of the material that I had ready, and we started working on characters and stuff. So my Avatar game is it's a cross between the television show, more Last Airbender than Legend of Korra, but there are elements of both. And it's a cross between those and a classic, traditional, like, Dungeons and Dragons kind of style game. So, that being said, I wanted to keep the game as close to canon as possible. I have a great love for the television show, and I went through great efforts to make sure that my world could coexist with their worlds, together, and it works. So anyone who has a great interest in Avatar will not be disappointed. At least I don't think so. Going along with that close to canon as possible, there is no magic in there's no magic in my game, because there's no magic in Avatar, technically. It's bending. So, but there is a lot of spiritual stuff that happens. So when anything kind of weird or unusual is happening, a lot of times you can call that, spiritual energy instead of magic or something like that. And so I'm using a modified Pathfinder system as well. So those of you who are listening at home and are curious as to what kind of skills they're using, or what kind of checks I'm having to make or whatever, I'm using the Pathfinder skill sheet, but I have made several notable modifications to it. But I'm going to try to keep those updated, keep you updated with those as necessary, kind of as I need to bring them up. I'll mention them, and hopefully you guys will be right with me the whole time. So my world, the world that the game is set in, is it's the world of the Avatar, as I said, but it is set hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, before the adventures of Avatar Aang and Avatar Korra and Kyoshi and all of those. So, and that being said, this is also the second campaign that I've ran in this setting, if you will. The first campaign was with Avatar Oshi, my girlfriend, and I thought it would be really cool if this second one kind of picked up where the first left off. So it's like 20 years in the future, and the Avatar has just gone missing, essentially. So kind of like the Avatar Last Airbender there, with Aang disappearing for 100 years. Except Avatar Oshi's only been missing for 20 years. But in that time, things are still starting to get pretty crazy, because they were getting kind of crazy 20 years ago when she was still, walking around the place. So since she's been gone, things have gotten even worse. But a lot of the same NPCs that existed in her campaign are still running around. Like her team Avatar, all of those guys are still alive and still running around. She was a waterbender, but she had an airbender and a firebender, and later picked up another waterbender. And I might explain that in more detail later. That's in Avatar Oshi's biography. So oh, look at that, we're at Avatar Oshi's biography. So maybe I'll just explain that now. So got to start at the beginning though. So Avatar Oshi is the daughter of Daimo Niue and Hikeko Nilak. Daimo Niue is a researcher from Ba Sing Se University, and his position is to kind of travel the world, seeking out all of the new and interesting advanced bending forms that are being developed just in different regions of the world, and all elements, not just fire or earth or whatever, all elements. He has an interest in all of them. Sorry, cat wanted out of. And Hikeko Nilak is a very talented waterbender from the Northern Water Tribe. So Daimo was actually investigating rumors of a powerful new waterbending healing technique in the Northern Water Tribe. When he went to investigate, he found that the person in possession of these abilities was Hikeko Nilak. And while doing his research and studying with her, they both fell in love with each other. And shortly afterwards, Oshi was born. And due to Daimo Niue's position in the Earth Kingdom and the Earth Kingdom's growing power and influence in this time, their just wealth of resources, and his position at the Ba Sing Se University kind of made him privy to a lot of information, and he was very quickly aware of Oshi's position as the Avatar. And obviously he didn't tell her. You can't tell the Avatar until they reach a certain age, like 16, I think, because it's not good for their social and mental development and stuff. So she didn't know she was the Avatar when she was very young, with her mother out in the Northern Water Tribe wilds, doing something. I'm not sure what. It was kind of, we didn't go into too much detail. It was kind of vague. But Daimo was off doing his research somewhere else, and there was a terrible accident while Hikeko and Oshi were alone. And it ended up, she was old. Oshi had started her waterbending training, but she hadn't gotten very far. And I think that's probably why they were out there doing something like waterbending training. But there was some horrible accident, and again, the details are very vague. But in this accident, Hikeko Nilak passed away, and Avatar Oshi, in large part, blamed it on herself and her own inadequacy as a waterbender. She said if she had been a better waterbender, she would have been able to save her mother. And it was through this immense guilt that her waterbending chakra was actually blocked, and her waterbending was completely shut off at this point. She's incredibly young, though. She's like 6 years old at this point, probably. So yeah, that happened, and Daimo returned as soon as he heard, obviously, and then he moved her to Ba Sing Se, where he could keep a better eye on her, seeing as her mother had passed away, and she didn't have a lot of family up north, and so Daimo moved her to Ba Sing Se, and she quickly learned earthbending, and she proved to be quite the natural, and again, this is all, she's still very young when all of this is happening, and it's for a lot of these reasons, she was so young when she picked up earthbending. Her waterbending is blocked. She lives in Ba Sing Se. She doesn't talk about her mother or her water tribe origins at all, really. She doesn't have any association to them, really. She was so young when she left. It's for a lot of these reasons that a lot of people think that Avatar Oshi was actually born into the Earth Kingdom, not the water tribes. And so a lot of people think that the Avatar state kind of skipped a generation or something, and that there's a lot of problems because of that. And a lot of people also think that because of that that if Oshi is dead, that the next Avatar is going to be in the Fire Nation. And then there are those who know better, who know that she was a waterbender or born into the water tribe, and so they're looking in the Earth Nation still. But anyway, yeah, that kind of plays actually into this next thing, which are the themes of my campaign. A lot of you might also call these central tensions. I feel like that's a phrase that's being thrown around a lot lately. When I was in school, they always said hey, these are the main themes of the novel or the story. And so that's what I call them. They're themes. So you might, or central tensions though, for those of you who are what the fuck does he mean by themes? Theme could mean anything. But anyway, some of my major themes are rumors and misinformation. So I wanted there to be lots of rumors spreading around. The sort of the thing where if you ask 10 people, you hear 3 different things from 10 different people, when you're just walking around the streets asking about a person or a place sort of thing. And you don't know who to believe. You don't know who has the most, knowledgeable input. And a lot of times it's kind of blurry. A lot of times one person has a couple things right, but then they have one huge significant thing that they got completely wrong, and this is just it's a giant game of telephone, right? So I wanted there to be lots of rumors and misinformation floating around, and that kind of reflects the unsure nature of the world right now. Avatar Oshi has been missing for 20 years, and no one knows where she is or where the next Avatar is going to be born. Those in the know with spiritual inclinations can also sense that there's huge waves of spiritual disruption around the world, and a lot of people believe that these could also be interfering with the Avatar cycle, potentially, shifting the cycle so that the Avatar is born in a nation out of the cycle, or perhaps the Avatar is not born at all. I had a few people saying that at the start of the game. The Avatar has abandoned the world. They don't exist anymore. So that goes in with the rumors and the misinformation. The next big theme that I wanted to hit was a really classic Dungeons and Dragons theme, I think, and that's order versus chaos. In my game, this is embodied as civilization versus nature, which is pretty standard Dungeons and Dragons stuff, I think. Pretty basic. Which is again kind of to give it that Dungeons and Dragons feel. And also just because it's a cool concept that fits really well within the Avatar world, I think, the concept of nature, because nature, is also kind of the spirit world in a lot of ways, and civilization tends to push against that. Very often in both series you can see examples of that happening, which so I wanted to kind of do some of that stuff as well. So you'll see a lot of it in book 1, kind of subtly. The players interacting with this civilization versus nature theme, but I also wanted there to be a bit of ambivalence about this as well. I wanted the line to be kind of blurry, you know what I mean? I didn't want them to know exactly which side they should be pushing for and which side they should be pushing against. I wanted there to be this unsureness, this unsteadiness, where they're well, yeah, this city is having problems with these local wild animals, but what are the ramifications of, displacing these wild animals? Maybe there's unforeseen consequences to our actions. And both negative and possibly positive, though that's another possibility. I try to take a large sweeping arc view, and I don't always, hold stuff against my players like that. If I think that it would work out with generally positive repercussions, then that's what's going to happen, so, but I didn't want them to know that, right? I didn't want them to know exactly what was happening with that. And as we get further into the story, further into book 1 and definitely in book 2, you're going to see lots and lots of this this order or civilization versus nature. It becomes more order versus chaos, and the spiritual elements play a much stronger part, and it becomes more of like order versus spirits, and it kind of also plays into, it starts getting darker and darker the further in we go, and that kind of plays into my third theme, which is goes along with some of our Session 0 stuff. One of the things I asked them during Session 0 was, hey, you guys have all seen Avatar, or at least some of it, and I want to know, do you guys want to be younger characters and have more of a lighthearted story that's, with like some serious notes and tones, like at highlights? Or do you want it to be kind of flipped around? Do you want it to be more serious stuff with less of the light and happy stuff to shift the game in that direction? You guys want to be older and, be handling more adult problems like that. And everyone seemed like they felt more comfortable handling, playing a older character and going with those darker, serious tones. And so that's kind of my third theme, is just like really heavy psychological elements. And so when I say that, I'm talking about like moral quandaries, betrayal, sacrifice, and even death for NPCs, for recurring villains, for a player, one of our players. So stay tuned for that later. That isn't to say that we don't have any lighthearted storylines or elements, though. There's been a few sessions and a few moments where it just felt right to kind of kick back and let the players, celebrate and have some fun. And so if we go far enough into this series, you're going to be hearing about some of those moments as well. And I look forward to relating those to you, because they were a lot of fun for me as well. It's kind of nice as a game master to just be like, yeah, this is just fun time. Like, we're just having fun right now. We're having a food fight. That's what's happening. More on that, like I said, later. So now that you kind of have an introduction of my world, I can kind of go into the Session 0 of the whole thing. So this is when I got together with my friends with all my material, and I was like, okay, let's roll up some characters. Let's do this thing. Let's play a game of Avatar. So I wanted the game to feature the Avatar just because it felt natural, and I know a lot of people might be hesitant against this and kind of, ooh, don't do that. Like, you don't, Avatar, that's so powerful. You don't want to give that to a player because it's too much power. They'll abuse it. I'm like, well, I mean, yes, but I put in certain handicaps so that it doesn't come up as much of a problem, and it becomes more of a story element than a gaming element. More on that as we get further into the series. But I wanted the game to feature the Avatar, and so I wanted all 4 elements to be filled. I wanted there to be an earthbender, a firebender, water, air. So I wanted all of those slots kind of filled. My girlfriend returned to the game as an airbender, Pema, and my other 3 players quickly called dibs on the other 3 elements. One of them immediately liked the sound of an earthbender, and another really, really wanted to be a waterbender. In fact, she wouldn't take no for an answer. She was going to be the waterbender. Initially, I was going to choose the Avatar a couple sessions into the game once I got an idea of everybody's playstyle and who I thought would be the most responsible Avatar. And this was going to go in line with the spiritual disruption, Avatar cycle out of balance sort of thing. That was going to play a big part of that, and that was going to give me the freedom to give the position of Avatar essentially to whoever I thought would handle it best, who would play it best, who could I count on not to abuse it and to maximize its story potential. But later on, I ended up changing my mind on this. After talking with my players a little bit, and I thought about it a little bit more, I decided to let the dice decide. After all, we're playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So the dice decide like everything in this game, pretty much. And so I thought that would be a really cool idea. And it also kind of fits in with the Avatar thing. Like, even if you know what nation the Avatar is going to be born into, you have no idea who it's going to be until that person is born. Like, so it's kind of, it's out of your control anyway, so why shouldn't we leave it up to fate, right? And as long as the Avatar cycle was out of balance, any one of them could end up as the Avatar, and it would be fine. And I was hesitant at first, but after we got in a few sessions, I started to get into my groove a little bit, and I started to find a rhythm, and I felt a lot more comfortable with the idea of letting that happen. So more on that later. I will be sure to inform you very soon who became the Avatar. In the meantime, we rolled up characters, and we got ready for our first combat. Of course they had a combat. You gotta let them fight. You gotta, alright? They just spent all this time investing all of this effort into learning this new system, creating these new characters, and listening to you babble on about the world and everything for the past, 3 hours or longer, potentially. I don't know. Or shorter. Who knows? But, for us, it was like 2.5, 3 hours probably. And so I was like, you know what? We gotta do some fighting, Otherwise, I'm going to have to go over all the combat next week again, because if we don't get a chance to play through the combat, that's my big thing. The combat is kind of strange in this game, and so it was good to run through it, and that was another reason to do it, even if it was a little rocky. And yeah, that was more me than them probably, but yeah, we were all still learning the system. But anyway, eventually there was one left standing. Or it had gone on long enough that I decided it was fine to just end it. And we were introduced to our party. First we have Tiki, the waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe. Later revealed to be from Alton, which was a recently destroyed Water Tribe village. There is Sindal, the firebender from the village of Lai Shun on the edges of the Siwang Desert. And listen for the Siwang Desert later, because a lot of big stuff is happening there. Then we had Pema, the airbender, from the recently established Western Air Temple. And as I mentioned, Pema was played by my girlfriend, returning from her role as Avatar Oshi to Pema. Pema is, the Western Air Temple actually was established by Avatar Oshi in the last game. That was one of the big plot things I had, was disputes between the Fire Nation and the Air Nomads to establish this new temple. And Avatar Oshi showed up and helped peacefully resolve those quandaries. And so now the Western Air Temple exists on the Fire Nation Island. On a Fire Nation Island there's a Fire Nation village there as well. And I mention this because this is also kind of crucial to the plot in this new campaign. So we're going to be visiting that island very soon. And last but not least, we had Fang Yang, the Earthbender from the Earth Kingdom metropolis of Dao Sun. And this is actually another location from the first campaign. Avatar Oshi went through there with her team Avatar 20 years ago and settled some stuff. But it doesn't really pertain, I don't think, to anything at all really that's happened in this campaign. So I'm probably not going to mention that in any of these videos. But anyway, there you have it. That's where we ended our session 0. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. And if you liked what you heard, I hope that you stick around to hear some more, because I'm going to be trying to post these videos pretty regularly. Thanks for listening, and I hope I see you soon.